on the head. Compliance is often the last thing on people's minds. From my experience, the words compliance and governance have often been rude words in enterprises. People don't want to hear about it. I think people worry that it's going to slow them down, it's going to get in their way, and it's going to be a roadblock for them. But in reality, if you get this stuff right earlier in the play, then it generally helps you longer term. But yeah, I think attitudes are slowly changing, and we're going to need more and more compliance across everything we do, with AIs coming in strong, more data protection. Yeah, I think it's the right time to be talking about it.
And it might seem that it will take more time and more budget to do it, to test projects, but in the end, it's the other way around. So according to researchers, developers spend 50% of their time fixing issues that could have been avoided if the products were tested early. And according to the research of the analytical company Forrester, it's 10 times more expensive to fix problems when or during the development stage than during the design stage. 10 times more expensive, and it's 100 times more expensive to fix the same issue when the product is already released.
And the fact that if you get it right early on, you get it right up front, you use the design to figure things out rather than get them wrong when it's more costly down the line. But big companies now are pretty much all working in bare minimum design components and even better design languages. So things are sort of ready-made, they're consistent, and they're quicker to implement. And the plus side of that, of course, is that they stay more on brand and you get the design that's consistent throughout people's experiences. So yeah, it's definitely worth investing in it earlier on rather than having to pay the cost later.
Is that designers need to know that each industry has its own rules and regulations, and we need to familiarize ourselves with these rules and laws before we start creating product, because like you said, after the product is launched, then people start understanding that there were a lot of regulations, and it's easier to start from scratch. So we always need to keep that in mind and to check with industry standards.
You always have to zoom out. A lot of stuff is absolutely not visible when you zoom in, and that's it. You essentially stop seeing forest behind the trees. Because that's it. You're way too close. It's for cardiac issues, for example. That's one very good example, because in adult people, in adult males especially, those things develop over a huge period of time. And to see the actual change, you need to zoom out. You take compliance as your guidelines. That's your blueprint. That's, if you look at it properly, if you look at it from like sort of perspective of, okay, I'm going to utilize it, I'm going to use it. That's actually your path is there. It's laid out in front of you by that compliance, because you know what you need to do. You absolutely know what you can't do. So you have limits right away.
Through digital services, where I am a bit more exposed now, this is even more important, because it is not in the last mile towards the customer, but it's embedded in the design and production of the actual service. So compliance is not anymore a sort of boundary, a sort of constraint, but it is a means of production. You have to embed it into the design and the production, because it enables you first to be correctly positioned. So you can say in a consistent way what you are, what you are doing. This is not so easy to do when you're working, when you have timings, when you have to be on the market at a certain point, when you have to deliver results to your investors. So the first you embed this in your practice, the better. It is difficult to understand how to communicate across. A technical specialist is fantastic in some areas, and he can't be, of course, aware of many issues from the legal side, and the other way around. So when legals and commercial people and technical people get together, they usually have difficulties in speaking the same language. And so everyone has to do his own homework, listing his criticalities, thinking not of himself, but of his, let's say, colleague.
Every part of the business puzzle needs to add value. We've been talking a lot recently about value streams, and I think compliance in itself is a value stream, right? So if you're able to treat it with the sort of attention it deserves and see it as a benefit, which we've kind of spoken about throughout this webinar, then yes, it does add value. I think at the very top of the session, I mentioned that it being a dirty word often with people that I've worked with, and that's changed, and people now see that it is valuable.
It's brilliant.